Alright, welcome back, the two of you, to a new stream for Nuclear Lizard Island Rampage. This was my second game that I ever got published on Steam, probably the fourth game that I ever made, and the first one that made its money back. So this is going to be a more coherent rundown of what inspired the game, how I made it, what went right, what went wrong, all that stuff. Alright, I made this game when I was still coming off of the house fire that I talked about in the last video. I think at this point I had a card table as a desk, so I'd moved up from the wine box that I was working on. I was still reading the book Console Wars, which, you know, it's about the fight between Sega and Nintendo. It's set in the late 80s and early 90s, and that was the time when people were doing a lot of really bad translations when they brought games from Japan to America or America to Japan. So that is a big part of this game. As you can tell, the title is stupid. The title is trying to ape a bunch of those really bad translations because I loved the like weird literalness that came out of that time period. And this game was also inspired by that dumb joke from Austin Powers, where they see a Godzilla and they say it's not legally Godzilla. For international copyright reasons, it is distinct. I said this was going to be more coherent. That was a lie. Let's stop talking about what inspired this game. Let's talk about what this game is for a second. So this game is very simple. You play as a giant kaiju, obviously, and your whole goal in the world is to fuck up an island. I think I have some, like, plot in the back of my head where the people on this island are coming to an island chain and strip mining it for resources, blah 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 blah. But when I was making this game, I didn't even think about adding in cutscenes or a story. So yeah, that's, I guess, headcanon. You smash up the island, you eat people, you upgrade your lizard, and that is how it's played. You can see the top left, there's something that says buildings broken. You need to break a certain amount of buildings to get through the level. And over there, on the top right, there's workers eaten. You need to eat a certain amount of people to earn upgrade points for your lizard that can make them run faster, have more health, get more health from eating people, etc., etc. It is a very simple, very stupid, and I like to think fun game. I like to think, maybe I'm wrong. Oh fuck, I'm gonna go destroy that fence because I hate it. When I was a kid, one of my friends had a GameCube, and he had a fighting game for the GameCube where you got to be like Godzilla and Mothman, or Mothra and all that shit, and they'd beat each other up in this giant city. And I don't remember how the fighting was in that game, because most of what we did as 10-year-olds was try to destroy the city. That was basically the scenery around us. And that is one of the biggest inspirations for this game that I usually don't even think to mention, because again, nobody knows what that game is. While making this game, I also attended my first convention as an exhibitor. The Ohio Game Developers Association, or whatever you want to call them, offered me a free table, which was awesome. And while I was there, somebody told me that my game looked like 3D Rampage, which I'm kind of embarrassed I have not played until about 2 months ago for the first time. But yeah, this game, to put it succinctly, is 3D Rampage. You are a giant monster, and your job is to rampage. That's it. I wanted to take the building destruction from that old stupid Mortal Kombat knockoff and just flesh it out. I wanted to be big. So as you can see, I'm getting shot. The farther you advance in the island chain, the more people you destroy, the bigger the defenses are. Ah shit, I was supposed to eat 10 people, I smashed everyone already. Yeah. This game was inspired by that fighting game, by a Beastie Boys music video, the one where it's a giant, really badly made robot versus a giant, really badly made alien. The dumb joke from Austin Powers, and then just bad translations from the 80s, or late 90s, early 90s, whatever you want to call it. Specifically, there was one called Fighting Baseball, where they made this whole game in Japan, which is already weird because at that time I don't think baseball had much of a cultural impact there. And then, as kind of an afterthought, they just took it to one of their random, I guess, programmers and said, "Yeah, make this English." And the guy obviously didn't do a very good job, and obviously didn't try very hard. And one of my favorite screenshots of any game ever is the player roster from Fighting Baseball. There's a bunch of like very, very bad and very, very fake English names that are an approximation of what a random Japanese programmer from the 90s would think is English. So it's like almost right, but not quite. It's in that uncanny valley. Like, I think one of the characters is named Sleeve McDaniels. Another one is called Todd Bonzales, or whatever. It's fantastic. I highly recommend that everyone go look at that. It's beautiful. I love that half-acid that people put into their creations back. Oh shit, I forgot about the chart. We live in an era where obviously video games are making much more money than they've ever made before. I think it used to rival movies, but now I think it blows it out of the water. And because of that, people are taking it seriously, which I guess is good as an art form, but also these are supposed to be games. These are supposed to be fun and ridiculous, and I think Todd Bonzales and Sleeve McDaniels and Roy McSchiff and all that, I love that. I want that feeling back in games, which is why this is called Nuclear Lizard Island Rampage, and I didn't try and make some weird grim dark thing about environmentalism. Ah, fuck you. So if anybody watched my last video, which, you know, fucking good on you. I know these are kind of rough. I am not a polished speaker yet. This is probably better, and that's not saying a lot for the first one, because this is bad. If anyone watched my last one, you know that I had been reading a book about the console wars in the 80s, and that is the fault for this art style. I'd also been playing around with a program called PicoCAD, which is the most low fidelity modeler that I've ever seen, and it's very fun. Ah, fuck you. I love this. Ah, that flew through too far. I think that sounds stronger than I thought. Also, if anyone watched the last video, you'll know that this art style is probably infinitely better than the one that I had in my last game. My last game was made in probably 2 months. That's first-person stapler. I say probably, it was made in 2 months. This one, I think I gave myself a lengthy 4. That is largely because I didn't think that I could do this. Like, I don't think I'd ever properly programmed a game before. first-person stapler, and you can look at first-person stapler and know that it's not a very complex game, and even that simplicity is pretty badly put together. But this one, I started out with a city block, and when I say city block, I mean a bunch of gridded squares that I called buildings. And I had little people, just like this. I had herds of them running around. Also, you'll recognize that splat sound from kicking open doors. I had herds of them running around, and anytime they got to an intersection like this, there would be a marker in the ground that would tell them to go to a different direction, and they were all running to bunkers like this. If you watch in this game, actually, sometimes those people running around will still get the signal and run into the bunker and be safe. The original gameplay for this game, you were just supposed to be in that city, and it was your goal to kill a certain amount of civilians before they got into the bunker. Which was fun, but also very difficult. Mostly because there had to be a ton of people on the map for it to actually, for the player to have a choice or a chance. Why is this boat already here? Oh, because I dropped this. And also, when I went back to it, I realized that what I wanted from the game, from that old Tekken knockoff, was building destruction. So instead of having it be about killing the people, I focused it back on being Godzilla, because Godzilla in the movies, he runs around and he kills a lot of people, but he seems to kill the people almost on accident. If you look at him, Godzilla is there to fuck up the city. So you are here to fuck up the city. But I had never done pathing before, which is one of the reasons why all of the targets in first-person stapler are static. They are in one place. They will only be in one place. I didn't know how to make anything move. So I gave myself like 2 weeks to figure out how to make these people walk and how to make them not walk off a cliff. Also, by the way, look at this tank. And I decided that if I couldn't get them to follow a path into the bunker and save themselves, I was going to give up development and move on to something else. And thankfully, I think I figured out pathing, oddly enough, in about 6 hours, which is not what I expected. And how it works is kind of ridiculous. I told you about the little markers in the ground, which they don't have those markers anymore for the most part. For the most part now, they just pick a direction and they go unless they run into something or run into a dangerous place. Like, they will run away from you if they have the presence of mind. They will, if they get close to this cliff, go the other way. They will avoid fences and avoid buildings like you saw, but for the most part they just run around and scream. They also are all flying. They're not walking. You can see they're hovering above the ground because I didn't want to bother animating legs or arms. But they are actually stuck at a specific axis in the air, and that is based on where the ground is. There's a sensor where their feet should be, that if it interacts with the ground, it will push them up, and there is a force constantly pushing them down. So they're kind of stuck in this weird space, being pushed down constantly and being pushed up when they hit the ground. That was so when they hit something like this ramp, they would walk down here and that force would push them down so they wouldn't just walk off into the air, which they did a lot in my original testing. Yeah, like I said, I didn't know what I was doing, and I still don't, but I figured if I could make something that had